Greetings and welcome back to Robocraft and to Bay 2, a bay where we haven't been for quite some time. Say hello to the Mjolnir Heavy Weapons Satellite, a Tier 6, very nearly Tier 7 satellite platform for plasma bombardment, though I suppose you could use this for other things. Now, following the episode in which I introduced this wondrous creation, I had every intent of doing a build tutorial. But, yeah, well, you know how it goes. Walker legs, nano disruptors, updates, they all come out, they call out to me with their siren call, and I get distracted. But here we are, once again, and ready this time to do the build tutorial. But as you can see, if you recall the original video in which I introduced this platform, it has changed just slightly, so I thought it would probably be worth just showing off the changes before we get down into how we can build them. As before, it is still a plasma weapons platform, sporting 3 plasmas, which in their current configuration mean that as long as you've got your side facing your intended target, they will not interfere with each other. But one of the chief differences to this, chief updates I've made to the design is the inclusion of shielding for the plasma limbs. The forward and rear plasma turrets have a small amount of shielding. It's not very much for Tier 6. I believe these are Tier 5. Tier 5 electroplates, but it does make it a little bit easier to keep the bot going. Also, the electronic warfare has been moved from the top of the craft. We've got a radar jammer there, Tier 5, and a Tier 5 radar just tucked in there. You may notice that this is far less broad. There's a lot less weight to this bot. In fact, much of the connecting structure is helium tanks. The limbs are made of armor cubes because if these get shot off, and they do get shot off quite a lot, if part of their design is to include helium, then all of a sudden your bot isn't balanced properly and it goes very, very wonky. So all of the helium is in the central column here, protected by our highest tier shields. Most of the maneuvering thrusters are also along this column, though we have some that are just starting to peek out towards the edges, but these are the lesser used ones. That is the descent thrusters. The ascent thrusters are at the top and are quite understated. There's also one there, because we have so much helium here, T6 helium specifically, and a couple of T4s just to stay in Tier 6, that this doesn't need much upward thrust. It has a very good passive climb. The maneuvering thrusters for turning are at the top, allowing the Mjolnir to spin in place, and also the forward and back thrusters. It has twice as much forward thrust as it has reverse thrust, but they are placed more or less at the center of the body, more or less the center of mass, and so it can move forward and back in a very stable way. So with that said, let's just jump into the practice arena so I can demonstrate how this flies. Let's get out there now. And then I will take it apart, and then I will go through rebuilding it again. Right. As you can see, we're climbing quite fast. You can put a little bit of extra thrust thanks to the thrusters, but they're more or less there to help steady it, because when we fire the plasmas, we will wobble a bit. And the upward thrust, as you can see there, it starts to mute the wobble very, very quickly. So we'll do that again. I won't hit a bot because I'm not really here to shoot things. I know that this can do a lot of damage to things, but there we are. Apply the upward thrust, and it just kind of mutes the wobble a little bit. Gets you back to a stable firing position a little bit faster. Now, this would be really handy for railguns, except whilst you're climbing, and it does take a little while to reach the height ceiling, you're going to have terrible accuracy with your rails. Now, as for side to side, as you can see, I've positioned the thrusters in a slightly asymmetric way. On the front of the craft, the thrusters are pointing to either side. They're pointing outwards, whereas on the back of the craft, they're pointing inwards, but that means it'll spin like a spinning top. So much, much faster turning. Finally, forward and back. As you can see, there is barely any instability with forward motion, and the same for reverse, but reverse is a little bit slower. You really shouldn't be relying on reverse for getting you out of a tricky situation. It's not something you should be putting your faith in. But forward, you can get a fair bit of speed. It's not too bad. But that is the Mjolnir heavy weapons platform. Now, let's go and take this bot apart. Now, I will, this time, be letting you know exactly how many cubes of what type are used. In this particular instance, there are very few cubes of any type used. That is armor cubes, at any rate. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to strip this down, and when you return, we will get to rebuilding this fantastic, if somewhat, well, I mean, it doesn't really look like Mjolnir. It's kind of false advertising in a way, I feel. Though, from actually thinking about it, with the new shields, from a certain angle, it does kind of look like a very short-handled hammer. Perhaps, unintentionally, I have actually made this resemble what it's actually named after. Glorious! Unintentional awesome is the best kind of awesome. But I shall bring you back in just a few minutes. And welcome back to what remains of the Mjolnir Heavy Weapons Satellite. Okay, starting on the left and working our way around, we have exactly 10 T3 thrusters, 4 T4 thrusters, and 8 Tier 2 thrusters. We also have 4 Tier 5 shields. We have 3 Tier 7 plasma artillery guns. We have 4 Tier 6 shields, we have a Tier 5 radar, a Tier 5 radar jammer, 20 Tier 6 helium, and 4 Tier 4 heliums. We also have a pilot seat that you can't see, otherwise it would do this to everything else. Ah, the red makes my eyes bleed. And in total, we use exactly 23 Tier 6 cubes and 2 Tier 6 prisms. Okay, with that all out of the way, let us begin the build. Now, thankfully, the Mjolnir has a fairly simple design at the bottom. Let me start planning that out now. I will have to consult... Actually, we're going to need to bump that up just a little bit so I can place things underneath. Can I... Oh, those don't fit on the side, do they? No, no, no. Can I place this underneath? Ah, drat. Let me get that one more out. Ah! No, I've used Tier 6 cubes to place everything on, so now it's complaining. Ah, you rotten game, you. Let me place that back down there. Okay, right. We want the plasma there, and that's moved everything up, really? Oh, okay. I won't complain too much, I suppose. Let's get rid of these. Now, we need to bring this out far enough for the shields. Now, if I recall correctly, we have a cross-section about there. Let me just double check that. Yes, that does, looking at it, seems to do the trick. We also have some blocks underneath, and that is what we will affix the prisms onto. And ooh, that's gone out one. No, that didn't go out one too far. I don't know what I'm doing, clearly. Right, let's get rid of you because these shields are about to be placed. So we don't need those there anymore. There we go. That's pretty much the entirety of the cubes. All that remains are for the two prisms. You could very happily do this without the prisms. Obviously, I just like having them there. Right, the plasma guns go over there. And finally, we want the shields. Now, the shields need to be placed so that the curve is toward the bottom. Well, I guess they don't need to be placed like that. I just happen to think it is going to be better for the bot if they are. And we do that over here as well. I really do wish that these shields would get a little bit closer in the middle when they're placed. To create an actual seal, but alas. We do not get to make those choices. Now, we need 4 helium coming straight up from the middle like this. And then we start to build the helium outwards. I believe the 2 Tier 4 heliums went here and here. The pilot seat will be going on top there. Let's actually get all of the helium gone from over here, because I'm about to use all of it up. Now then, if I recall, we need to build out the helium on this side. We actually want, I think it's Tier 4 helium in the middle there. This may be slightly different to the way we've actually built it up ourselves. And that's pretty much par for the course for my tutorial videos, I'm afraid. We've got quite a lot of helium here, actually, so I probably built this up much more. So let's continue to build that up. That is 6. That leaves us with 2. I probably did this. Let's see if I can recreate this as faithfully as possible. And we'll get the remaining 2 in there. That is not a faithful recreation. I can already see that. Right now, I have lied to us all. Let me move that down. Perhaps I built it out a little bit more like that. That gives me 4. That seems to be about right, actually. Let's build these out at the top there. I think that is a bit closer to what we had, except... No, I need the thrusters up there. I'll just put this here and we'll see what we can do with that in a little bit. I won't worry about it too much. Right, so that's all of our helium placed. Next up is the radar. Now, will the radar have enough room under this? Yes, it does, and that is exactly how much room it had previously. So there we go. We also need to place this just about here, where it will tuck behind the shields, which I am about to place. Let's get these placed in now. If I've put this in the right position... I have not. It is clear to me now. These need to be in a slightly different position, I think. Yes, these need to be higher up. Okay, so that is my problem. I've built this all a little bit too low down. Okay, let's move all of this up then. There we go. And we'll have 1 red helium there. We'll build these up like this. And we should be getting a little bit closer to what we had previously. Maybe. There's a remote possibility that we are building this wrong. But if that is the case, well, we're just going to have to live with it, I'm afraid. Right, there. Is this going to be any better, or have I literally just rebuilt what I had before? We are about to find out. No, there we go. Fantastic. That will kind of work. That isn't actually where this was all placed. But if I move that in, maybe? Okay, I think that is possibly what I had. Let's move this helium in. We want the T6 helium in the middle if possible, just so that the T4 is higher up. It isn't as necessary for us to have. So if that gets shot off, it isn't as big of an issue. And we'll get the T4. Where are you? There we go. Right. I think we may now be cooking with fire at long last. And I'm going to need the other shields, I'm afraid. Let's get these in place. Right. The reason why I needed the shields in a very specific place is just so that it protects the radar jammer at the back there a little bit better. In earlier designs, I had it lower down and it was constantly getting shot off. And that isn't great. I don't really mind losing my radar as much as I mind losing my radar jammer, considering that really does help in keeping me alive. Other than spotting, that's one of the main ways that people are going to see me, is by actually picking me up on their radar. Okay, we've got something working there now. Let's go ahead and place down the... yeah, we'll place down the downward thrusters next. Right, these need to be tucked in here and there. No, actually, let me place that one there. This is the way they were placed, on there and one there as well. Let's get rid of all of this, just clean up the room as we're rebuilding the satellite, just so I know exactly what's left to place. Now, as for these thrusters, we need... there we are, that's right. I had them positioned like this, or each one, the front ones pointing outwards, the rear ones pointing in. We also then had 2 thrusters giving me some lift. I'm fairly certain that the helium is in the wrong place, unfortunately, but it's really probably not going to make that much difference. The main thing is that it's symmetrical for this build. That is pretty much the only thing you really, really need to ensure. Right, the final part of the thrusters are going to be placed down. Now these... one thing I really like about this is how neatly they all fit together. Now then, we want 2 forward, 1 back. There we are. And same over on this side, 2 forward, 1 back. And that leaves us with quite a few more thrusters. So we could place them there, and that gives us our downward thrust as well. I'm fairly sure I've pushed all of the thrusters down a little bit. That's probably due to a mishap on my part. That probably needs to be pushed up or something similar. But this should be functionally more or less identical to the original. And we're going to give that a quick test. Now, hopefully, this is perfectly balanced, as was the original. And I'm not going to have to play around too much with trying to put things back the way they were. Alright, let's see how this goes. Who knows, it might even be better. It wouldn't be the first time that during a build tutorial I actually made something better than the original. There we go, it spins in place. That is perfect. We have got the upward thrust. Let's see if that helps with the wobble. Let's take you out. And is that going to mute the wobble? Yes, it does. Perfect. And you can also die, hopefully. Oh, well, actually, yes, I did hit you. Right, okay. Forward and back. Quite stable movement. Good, good. And backwards. Slow, but still stable movement. Okay. The Mjolnir has been rebuilt. Possibly better than before, maybe not, who knows. There's still quite a lot of room for improvement on this particular bot. As goes for all of my robots, honestly. I don't profess to be a good robot designer. I just profess to be a happy robot designer who has fun designing the robots that he designs. That is pretty much the only criteria for me in playing this game. But as you can see, it is literally on the edge of tier 7. If you were to change more or less anything in this build, you could probably push it into tier 7 just with a different shield or just using different thrusters even. In fact, if you replace the 4 tier 4 helium cubes with tier 6, that would almost certainly push this into tier 7. You can, of course, replace the weapons. If you really wanted to, you could go for rails. I still don't think that rails on a satellite are particularly good. At least not on this satellite, especially considering the enormous size of these weapons. But one thing this has going for it, you would need to change the position there. Really? Something is showing up, right? Maybe not. But you would need to change the position of the limbs, and perhaps that would push you into tier 7. But you could not only go up, you can easily pull this down. All you'd need to do is replace the helium with a lower tier helium, or just the armor cubes with lower tier armor. You could certainly replace these shields with these ones. In fact, that was the original Mjolnir design. It has these in more of a kind of sloping curve around the central column. But I am pretty happy with the Mjolnir being in tier 6. I do like to keep a couple of bots in a spread of tiers. If you have the garage space, there's no reason not to. And it just makes it a little bit easier when you then decide to platoon with your friends. And if someone is in a lower tier or in a higher tier, you can change your bot without having to make everyone wait 10 minutes while you redesign your bot in order to fit into the desired tier. So certainly if you have the garage space, there is no reason to just have a bunch of tier 10 bots, because that's just going to mean you're not going to have, it's not going to be as easy for you to platoon with people in lower tiers. Now, as planned, I will be doing a couple of tutorial videos. I think the next one will probably be on the Monkey Lord Mark IV, which you can see has been getting a little bit of a facelift. We have replaced quite a lot of the cubes here with higher tier cubes. I may continue to grind and just replace the rest of it with tier 8 armor, and that will probably push me into tier 9, so then I'll replace some of the guns as well. But for now, that is the end of this episode. In the next, I will probably be doing a tutorial on Mjolnir, and after that, I suspect I may return to my tier tutorials and see if I can't bring the Chocolate Hedgehog up towards tier 10. We will have to see about that one. I would actually like to have played around a little bit more on my main account and actually built a few tier 10 bots there before then, but you might start seeing the tier tutorials making a comeback, kind of sprinkled among my regular videos, I think. But that is it for now. I do hope you've enjoyed this episode and you will have fun playing with the Mjolnir. But until next time, do take care.